Alright, welcome back to another video. I know it's been a while. I know I say this in every video. I really keep trying to make those more regular, but I haven't so far, so please bear with me. On a side note, there has been a slight increase in the channel in terms of subscribers. It's really lovely without me doing anything. I heard I was mentioned by another channel, which is lovely. I don't know this other channel, but thanks so much if you're watching this. What I want to talk today about is a very sensitive topic. It's about just some thoughts of myself about gear recently. I know talking about gear, especially on music or guitar channel, is it's a delicate topic. For me personally, I was always of the belief as soon as a channel I liked starts talking too much about things to buy, it really quickly descends into this world of like just consumerism, of product reviews. I show you something, you buy it, I get something back from the Amazon link. And I know a huge amount of YouTube works like this. There's nothing wrong with that, but I often feel like it's somewhat the death of creativity if that happens only, or if that happens too quick. So don't worry, you won't find any links or any recommendation to buy anything here. If anything, I show you my gear and tell you what sucks about it, and so you don't have to buy it, if that makes sense. But I just had a little bit of a resurgence of videos I watched and an interest in gear, which I haven't had in a long time. And I just want to lay down my thoughts on that. To really understand where I'm coming from here, you need a little bit of history, maybe about me and as I developed as a musician and a guitar player, and I think this applies to quite a lot of people. I personally started from the world of classical guitar. I had that for the most part of my childhood. I only played classical guitar, like on a kind of Spanish nylon string guitar where your knee is up here and you hold it like this and you don't have any friends and you can't play any of the music because everything's really hard. And essentially I come from a place where you have, besides your guitar and the strings, very little gear. I know some people have like the nails and stuff, and if you do it professionally it's different, but like as a kid with the classical guitar, besides the guitar you don't have much gear. And even the thought of upgrading your guitar as a better guitar as a kid on the classical, that was never even a thing. Like that wasn't in my head. I knew my teacher had a nicer guitar than I, but he also just could play. So the difference for me was never about the gear as a child, and that kind of stuck with me for a long time. As I go on from then, I got to the age of being a teenager, where I got my first electric guitar, and then that was kind of like a 180 for me in regards to gear, because suddenly there was so many things in regarding to your sound. Because you start with the electric guitar, it was a very cheap Strat I had at the time, but this guitar doesn't really sound like anything without an amplifier. There was this second thing, and I got really interested into that. And then when you start, you also get those, you really quickly get into those little boxes. Actually, I didn't right away, but loads of people do. So you have the amp that makes the sound. Your guitar sounds different with different amps. Then you have those little guys in between, which make a different sound again. Then you have big boards, you have multi-effects. I hugely got into that. Like I had a PGM, like a Paul Gilbert guitar, the white one with the fake F-folds, and I got like custom-made Heisel pickups in it. I had a Digitech multi-effects board. I had like a custom-made pedal with tubes in it from Damage Control. Like, I was like in guitar forums that were still a thing back then. They're still a thing right now, I know, but like at the time that was a huge thing. So I went through all of that, and it was probably too much. And with all of this big rucksack of gear, I went to college later on. After being like 19, 20, I went to music college in Germany to study guitar, and there kind of it flipped 180 again, because I seen people playing on a small Fender amp without any pedals, or with the same setup I had. Like often you have like rehearsals or stage performances there, and very often if you're in class you don't have all your gear with you. At least in Germany we didn't. You just plug it in, you have a bit of reverb from the amp if you're lucky, and that's it. And I just seen people with sometimes my guitar even, or very similar guitars, sounding like infinitely better than me. And it kind of, I clicked again in my head that I was like, all these boxes and amps and stuff I have, that doesn't, none of that matters. I went again into an extreme, and I was like, none of that matters. I just have to practice all the time to get as good as those guys. And to my detriment and the detriment of my sound, this belief stuck with me for probably quite a long time, and very likely it stuck with me way too long, because I still, all through my college time here in Ireland and then starting my own band, I still always had a very minimalist setup, which isn't a bad thing in itself. Like, for once, I didn't have a car or anything. I had to carry stuff on the bus, so there were constraints on that part. But I always never really investigated my sound, because I was like, I can't really play moment's notice yet, so why should I look into a delay pedal? That was my thinking. And now this is a bit of the history and where I'm now so far. And now I want to just put those thoughts together, because I think all of those thoughts have their place. As I just said there, the thought of I can't really play yet as good as I like, so I shouldn't spend all my time looking into a delay pedal. I think that comes from a good place. I think I was generally concerned with like spending time practicing and spending time learning music and my instrument. I think that's a good thing to do. However, if it becomes an extreme and it actually hinders you from looking into your sound, how you project your ideas to an audience, it's not great. Because for me, I was like, even if I wasn't sounding great or I wasn't happy with the pedal, I just stuck with it. And in my head, I was just like, just play faster. Not really, just play better, more complicated stuff, more dexterity, more anything. And I wasn't looking into, okay, if I just play like a 3-note phrase that's very simple and I know I can play that, how does that actually sound? How does it get projected from me to the audience? And that was a huge thing. And that kind of changed lately, where I bought another pedal, and I bought a second delay pedal. For most of the last probably 7 or 8 years, I used one delay pedal. I used this one here. It's not a very practical delay pedal for lots of guitarists. If you play like in a wedding band or in a commercial band, you need something with a tap to get the beat. This one is not that. This is an analog delay pedal, and also my one, I don't know if you can see it, my one is kind of broken at the side, and I think once when I changed the battery I also broke it inside, and it really changes the sound. And a lot of people want a clean delay, just do the delay thing. This is not that. This has a really kind of, it makes the sound a bit thicker, it makes it warmer. I feel there's a bit of modulation on it. It has a modulation knob, but even if that one's not turned on, I feel it does modulate. I really love it, but I get why many people don't. The problem with this is it was my only delay pedal, and I wanted to use it to just have it with my normal, like standard clean sound, to just give it a bit of room with a little bit of reverb. But then I also wanted at some point like a big wide delay, like the world's coming to an end delay. And I couldn't really figure out how. It sounds so silly, but like just the thought of buying another delay pedal and putting it in the chain, it never really occurred to me. And this is really stupid, I know. I just stuck with it and fiddled with the settings while I was playing. I was always like, find a way around. I don't want to spend money on another delay pedal, till recently, where I bought this guy here, which again is an analog delay pedal. I don't know nothing about this. I didn't read much reviews or anything. I just tried it out in the shop, and I really liked what it did. It's a memory toy from Electro Harmonics. I don't think it's the best delay in the world. I think there's definitely more versatile ones, because this one again doesn't do all that much, at least in my setup. But I really like it, and I have this as a second delay, and this kind of got me down the rabbit hole again, watching loads of rig rundowns, loads of videos, and I had a big kind of falling back in love with the humor of Paul Gilbert. So all of that kind of stuff got me looking more into sound, into pedals, into how I actually distribute the guitar to the listener. And I feel way more careful now. Like, we had a couple rehearsals lately, and I took detailed pictures with the phone of exactly the setting I had in rehearsal. I tried to replicate it. I made little notes, like I wrote down, this is too boomy in the bass, this is a bit too shrill in the highs, or whatever, for a certain song, for a certain setting. I kind of made notes, and I documented my process of how I work with my sound. And after like a month or so of doing that, the rehearsals sound way better. Like, for once, we know the tunes more. That's one thing, we're rehearsing new tunes. But also my personal sound. It's easier to play. Like, things that I always struggle with the clean sound feel more transparent and feel easier to bring from the guitar to the ear. So this is like a long gibberish rant about gear. And it's just, maybe you can identify yourself with some of that, coming from an extreme position to another extreme position, and kind of rethinking your stance on where you stand on gear. I think especially in jazz, it's very polarizing. There's new guys like like Gilad or Kurt Rosenwinkel who use a lot of gear, tons of pedals, different amps and stuff. But then there's also kind of the jazz thing where you just have an old amp and a beautiful arch top, and that's your gear. So there was a lot of confusion. I just wanted to put some thoughts of that down. I don't know if that makes sense for you. Maybe it was interesting to listen for you, and maybe you have similar thoughts on gear. If so, let me know in the comments. I just continue always rethinking, am I spending too much on trying to find the right pedal, or am I not spending any time on developing my sound, while we always practice, of course. So maybe some of those thoughts help you. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope I see you in another video very soon. Thanks so much. Cheers.